All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr. getting blamed for the Terence Crawford lawsuit. He ran from, according to Tim Bradley, and people are somehow making this connection, Errol Spence Jr. ran from Terence Crawford and ran to Yordenis Ugas and refused to fight Terence Crawford, so it is Errol Spence Jr.'s fault. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford, specifically something that Tim Bradley said. Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. All right, before I get into that, though, please make sure that you subscribe and go to our partner, busr.ag/Fanon. Use the promotional code Fanon/101, and you will get a special $250 benefit if you deposit and wager this weekend on the Gary Russell Jr. fight. So make sure you guys go do that and get that benefit because the big fights are going to start. And I know a lot of you guys like to wager, so make sure you guys take advantage of those benefits and get those free perks. Also, let's make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like the channel, all that good stuff, and hit that like button and the subscribe and the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so let me lay out the facts here first. Okay, Tim Bradley, who was interviewed, and this is a recent interview that came out on DAZN, said that he believes that Errol Spence Jr. is running from Terence Crawford, and that he knows that he can't beat Terence Crawford, and that the reason is because Errol Spence Jr. is good, and specifically he ran and took the Yordenis Ugas fight because Yordenis Ugas fight was an easier fight for him than the Terence Crawford fight is. His logic is that Yordenis Ugas is a counterpuncher. Errol Spence Jr., we've seen what Errol Spence Jr. can do with counterpunchers. He can keep them on the outside with his jab. He can, he can use his footwork, fight from the outside, pressure the fighters when he needs to. So he's very, very good with beating counterpunchers. A guy that will wait on him, like Yordenis Ugas, and he said like before that, Danny Garcia, and before that, a guy like Mikey Garcia, counterpunchers, where he would have more difficulty against guys that would take the lead, like I suppose he's saying somebody like a Sean Porter or a Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford can take the lead or Terence Crawford can counterpunch, right? He can do both of those things very, very well. So Tim Bradley says that Errol Spence Jr. is running from Terence Crawford for that reason. Somehow, though, in my DMs and in comments that I'm seeing people make, that somehow means that the reason that Terence Crawford and the Errol Spence Jr. fight was not made, and consequently Terence Crawford is suing Bob Arum, is Errol Spence Jr.'s fault. That Errol Spence Jr. turned down a fight with Terence Crawford and ducked Terence Crawford, preventing Bob Arum from keeping Bob Arum as part of the deal, where he said that he would get the Errol Spence Jr. fight for Terence Crawford. Let me tell you, that is what you call logical gymnastics. First and foremost, Errol Spence Jr. has been saying that what Errol Spence Jr. is going to do before Terence Crawford re-upped or agreed to anything with Bob Arum. He said that what he was going to do because of Bob Arum and the fact that Bob Arum never called him, and that Bob Arum, in his words, was smoke and mirrors, was going to clean up his side of the street, get the rest of the belts, and then go about seeing Terence Crawford. That's what he said he was going to do, and he said that before Terence Crawford had signed his contract with Bob Arum. Also, I have heard absolutely nothing out there despite how many times we I do it, we all do it. Well, many other channels do it, but I'm gonna I specifically do it. I talk about what Terence Crawford says in the media about what percentage split that he wants, what Errol Spence Jr. says about what percentage cut he wants, what the barriers are, all of this and that going back and forth in the press. But to date, I have never actually heard that Bob Arum has made an offer to Errol Spence Jr. for a Terence Crawford fight. Have never heard it. Nobody from Bob Arum's camp has said, hey, we called up Errol. We're trying to make this fight for this date. Errol Spence Jr. says he doesn't want the fight, so we can't do that. There is no press whatsoever out there at all about Bob Arum actually making an attempt to make that fight with between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. What I think the situation is that pretty much, and this is the way that I'm looking, obviously I'm looking at it from the outside looking in, right? However, there are certain things that we do know because of the lawsuit that Terence Crawford filed with Bob Arum. One thing that we know is that Bob Arum agreed to pay Terence Crawford at least $900,000 if he was unable to get a fight with Errol Spence. That is what is alleged in the complaint that Terence Crawford and his lawyers filed. Common knowledge right now. So we know that's the case. But what does that mean? Does that mean that Bob Arum was going to go out of his way and try to make a fight with Errol Spence Jr.? No, it does not mean that. It means that it doesn't necessarily mean that. You would think that it would mean that because you would say, what reasonable person would agree to pay $1 million or $900,000 if they did not intend to be serious and try to make this fight and try to make that fight? Well, that depends on whether or not the guy is saying, look, I know I'm not going to make this fight, but in order to shut this guy up and sign him, I will promise him that if I don't get the fight, I'll pay him an extra $1 million. But I'm going to make my money for sure because this is one of my biggest attractions. I need him to fight on my network. A lot of people are on my card in order for me to make the money from ESPN to pay the other fighters. So as long as I continue to be overall in the red, in the black, as far as it goes with the card, I may be willing to go into the red a little bit on the specific line item related to Terence Crawford. So it is conceivable that Bob Arum would agree to pay that $900,000 more as okay, I know we're already dealing with if he's getting $4 million a fight for eight fights, say it's a $25 million contract. Okay, instead of making a $24 million contract, I'm going to make a $25 million contract so that I can get him into the contract. But I don't have any intentions on pushing for an Errol Spence Jr. fight. And I believe that is what the case is. To say that Errol Spence Jr. ducking Terence Crawford is the reason that Bob Arum wasn't able to satisfy that contractual obligations is a guess at best, and in my opinion, runs contrary to logic. I don't think that he wanted to do that fight with Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, because he would rather have more fights from Terence Crawford, make money off of the fighters on that card that he's not paying a lot of money to, right? And satisfy the requirements that he has with his ESPN contract to have marquee fighters and big names going to that network. If Terence Crawford is not with Top Rank, that is one fewer marquee fighter that Top Rank has in their stable. And quite honestly, they don't have a lot of marquee fighters. They only may have 3, right? If you consider Tyson Fury that, Terence Crawford, Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, and guys like Shakur Stevenson, guys like that, Navrati and them are guys that they're trying to build, but had not at the time that he signed that contract showed that they were major attractions. And when I mean there's a difference, I'm not saying that Terence Crawford was a pay-per-view star. I'm saying that he was attraction, that he's a well-known commodity in boxing, well-respected as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and something that millions of people will tune in to watch on ESPN, maybe not pay for it on pay-per-view, but on ESPN, so they needed that attraction. So, to take what Tim Bradley said and then try to flip that onto Errol Spence Jr., I think is bananas. But anyway, That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.